Blog Talk Radio.
Hello out there, everybody. It is Wednesday, February 22nd, 2012. I am David Domzalski, founder of the Financial Bin and host of Financial Bin Radio. Before I introduce you to our guest, let me remind you of a few things. First off, don't forget to pick up your copy of Entrepreneur Intervention, Triumphs and Failures of Entrepreneurs. You can do so for just 99 cents on Apple's iBookstore, Kindle, Nook, and Sony Reader. You can also get a paperback copy for just $10. Actually, it's $9.99 at Amazon and CreateSpace. Go to financialbin.com, click on the book section at the very top next to the login button for more information. Secondly, we're in the planning stages of our next book, Wealth Intervention. The idea of the book is to give people in the Generation Y age group something to shoot for and concrete examples of people who have been there and done it. Go to financialbin.com, click on Wealth, and you'll find the article talking about it all right there. You can also email us at wealth@financialbin.com for more information or to contribute. Now let me introduce you to our guest today. His name is Shel Israel. Shel is the author of Stellar Presentations, an entrepreneur's guide to giving great talks, and he runs the Global Neighborhoods blog, one of the top business blogs in the world. We did a review of Shel's book. It ran just yesterday. Check it out on financialbin.com. And please join us in welcoming Shel. Shel, welcome to the program.
Hi, David. Thanks for having me here.
Oh, not a problem. It's our pleasure. The way I like to do it is we just like to just dive right in here. So first question I have for you, Shel, is can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your background?
Well, I've been around a long time. 150 words. Okay, I've got a short version. Okay. I fundamentally I write. That's what I love to do. I hate the vow of poverty, so I also consult. And in between the two, I do a fair amount of public speaking.
Okay, fantastic. I like that version. Can you tell us a little bit about the PR agency that you ran for 17 years, which kind of focused on startups in Silicon Valley? What made that company successful?
Well, we did things. I have a tendency to turn what other people are doing upside down. Okay. The whole idea was how could I serve startups, and more specifically, how could I help them with their first launch? It was the only time where the PR agency was absolutely vital to the success or failure of the company. And it was also the most exciting time. I kind of get off on about poverty. So we specialized in taking companies out on their first launch, their first introduction, their first presentation, their first press tour, whatever. And after that, we would help them go to larger agencies that liked systems in place more than I did. So over 17 years, we launched some fairly enduring and exciting products and companies, and some of them still live on today. One probably that's best known is PowerPoint, which we launched for a little company called Nashoba Systems, Inc., who was originally from Sri Lanka, which is a bit off campus from Silicon Valley.
Is that, with this background in helping startups kind of gain their footing, is that part of the reason you wrote Stellar Presentations?
Well, it's kind of funny because most people know me by what I've done in social media. Mm-hmm. And my whole history in social media only goes back to 2004. I personally go back to about when they were launching the Wheel. My agency didn't represent them, which is why nobody knows who the developer was. But it's I have always been drawn to the startup, but I've worked on presentations from 3 points of view. When I had a PR agency, I was the one that helped the CEO or whoever it would be to make a presentation at demo or some other conference, or to go see press and analysts on the press tour. And I, over time, got my perception that everybody else was going out and giving PowerPoint items, bullet points. These are the 3 takeaways you need to know about my company. And stick in a few adjectives because your product's really dreary and it can't speak for itself, and maybe that'll get everybody excited. But I started having my clients tell stories. If I could, I got them to tell stories about themselves and what problem they had or what they saw or what dreams they had that would lead to the product that they're now introducing. And what I did had a little bit of a formula to it. It made certain, as the book advises people, that whoever the speaker was, they were only the host, they were the MC. The real star was the product, because if you're dealing with startups, that's what it's all about. Right. You can be the nicest guy in the world, you can be the most brilliant guy in the world. If I don't need what you're selling, have a nice day.
No, absolutely. I couldn't agree more with that aspect. I think that gets lost in the fold sometimes. Shel, what is your overall goal for the book?
Well, there's a bunch of goals. Candidly, okay. There's a new business model here for me, and it also, this is the first self-publishing I did, and I wrote a very, very short book. And I'm kind of known as a big picture sort of person, and this book certainly deals with some big picture, but more than any other book I've written, this is a how-to book. It's pragmatic, it's with tips, right down to the secret of the cantaloupe, which you're going to have to spend $10 to find out about. But the idea is that people will buy this book. They'll learn a lot right there and it'll be worth their time. But if they really need some help, they'll hire me to be their speech coach or presentation coach. And then people like you will have me on the air, and everyone listening will see how interesting I am, so I'll get hired to be a speaker too. And my hope is, rather than writing one book every 3 years, which seems to be my pattern, that I might be able to do 2 or 3 books of this nature in a short period of time. And I'm just playing around a lot with the whole concept of self-publishing, with the changes that are made by when something gets out of date in my book. I can go online and upload a new version of the book and keep the book current. My last book, Twitterville, was very, very successful for 6 months. And then it was kind of over, because when I started writing it, there were 1 million people on Twitter, and 6 months after I was done publishing, there were something like 60 million. And most people didn't feel like they needed any stinking book to learn how to write 140 characters. This book is smaller. I don't expect it to get the attention that Twitterville and Making Conversations got. But I think it'll be very useful, and a small number of people will always need it. And so my new books are going to be an experiment in doing that rather than the big picture stuff.
Shel, for those entrepreneurs kind of looking to, maybe make a pitch or maybe make a presentation sometime soon, what are some of the common mistakes that you've seen startup CEOs make, and how can people avoid them? The short answer.
I just told you how I'm trying to be much briefer, that my new book's 75 pages instead of 300. I think in Chapter 1 I talk about 3 questions. And the first question is really the most important one. What do these people want out of me? I think in the book I worded it a little differently, but there you are, you're standing in front of a room. It's filled with people that can make a difference to your company. Some of them are investors, some of them are the press, some of them are future employees, some of them are competitors. What can I do or say while standing here that when they leave, I'll be among the companies that they remember and talk about? Right. And people don't do that. They try to tell you how hard it was to make what they make, or they try to give you an MBA approach about how smart they are and how wonderful their team is. I've worked with some of the most amazing people, most brilliant people, most visionary people who engineered really great products, and they all failed. And they failed because they never sold the dream. They never sold an image that says, If I don't have that, my life will somehow or other be inadequate. So that, I think, is the number one problem, is that companies want to tell you too much about themselves and not enough about how they are helping you.
Shel, you mentioned how this is your first dabble into self-publishing. What did you learn from the writing process of this book? Just putting it out there on your own. What have you had to do differently?
It was harder than I thought it was by a few orders of magnitude. For one thing, you lose a lot when you leave traditional publishers. One thing that's obvious is you lose that advance that allows you to work on a book and still eat at the same time. So I've never written a book in my spare time before, and it's harder because for me, writing a book is an obsessive experience. And so I used to wake up at 5 in the morning and be obsessive till 11, and then go for an exercise and then do other work to pay the rent. The second thing is a lot of the stuff that I thought would be easy isn't. Formatting, getting a table of contents to have the pages match, understanding how a book looks on an e-book and how that's different from a paper book. Those are harder issues than I thought. I had elected at the beginning to do this for as bare bones as I could. I invested a fair amount of money in Harry Miller, who's did me a favor. He's the former editor of PC World from back in the day when PC World had over 1 million readers. And he helped the book be a lot better. And really, I also ran it through the life test, which has always been valuable to me in all my books. But I didn't use a lot of the services such as formatting. I thought I could proofread well enough, which I couldn't. I didn't understand if I hit 2 spaces there, every page in the book changes. So it took me an extra couple of weeks to get a book that looks decently. And already I've had a couple of errors pointed out, which I can change in 48 hours. So the good news is that I'm running my own show, and as an entrepreneur myself, I kind of like that. But the next time around, I will use a larger team to make sure the book looks more professional. I am not sure whether a cover that is plain, unartistic, and obviously from the limited choices the self-publishing organization gave me, it is going to cost me readers or not. I have my doubts. I think we now live in a world of thumbnails, and that's a lot different than the world of bookshelves.
Well, I self-published Entrepreneur Intervention, our first book here at Financial Bin, so I can definitely relate to the pearls of formatting. It's an art in and of itself.
I respect it a lot more than I did before.
Definitely. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Shel, can you touch on what else you're doing today? I know you run the Global Neighborhoods blog, and you have various other things you're involved in. Could you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Well, my primary source of income has almost always been consulting. Okay. And I sometimes consult large companies on projects, almost always related to social media strategy. That's a term that's used by everybody except for the cab driver who took me to the airport the other day. But it's pretty common. To me, social media strategy is how you start with a business objective and you use social media tools to achieve that objective. I could go off a little bit here, and that people sometimes measure the wrong things in social media and think they're helping their business. My favorite is people often come up to me and tell me how their business has 23,000 fans on Facebook. And I stop and say, oh, that's great. Who are those people? Well, we don't know, but we have 23,000. Well, what are they doing for you? Well, we don't know, but we got 23,000. Isn't it great? Yeah, those cheesy pictures that somebody posted there are probably helping, but and then I spend a lot of time with startups, and I get more deeply involved with startups than I do with big companies. Very often on social media strategy, but I've been working with startups since 1979. I've got over 200 of them. So I spend a lot of time doing that. And then the third thing I do, which I just absolutely love to do, is I get on the stage myself. And the book talks about that a little bit because, it's sort of like self-publishing. When I was coaching entrepreneurs to get on the stage, I thought it was really easy. I couldn't figure out why once they got up there, they did all these lame things. Then I wrote a couple of books, got up on the stage myself, and discovered how easy it was to do lame things.
Shel, kind of wrap it up here a little bit.
I guess the last punchline is that I might have written the book to remind me before I go on the stage the next time what not to do.
Your own little cheat sheet, I guess, right?
Yeah. That's why it's a small book.
Exactly. Shel, what are 2 or 3 tips? Just kind of ending the interview here. What are 2 or 3 tips you can pass on to members of Gen Y who may be kind of apprehensive about making that first pitch or presentation? This can either be from the book or maybe from your consulting experience.
Well, it's first of all, let me confirm you were scared. It's a terrifying experience when you first get on the stage. You have all these nightmares, but the first thing you should remember is all those people out there are not out to get you. They're on your side. They're there because they want something useful or interesting to come out of the experience. They've spent money or they've sacrificed time to be in this room, and their hope is that you'll be good. And if you're an entrepreneur, don't worry about polish. It's passion that matters. Your audience will forgive you a whole lot of little things like an occasional typo or stutter or stammer. What they won't forgive you is trying to pump them up with a bunch of hubris. A second thing is to remember the focus is never you. It's your product and your audience. If you can make your audience happy, everything else you want to have happen will. Thirdly, I can get warmed up on this one. Thirdly, you've got to remember that a presentation isn't the deal maker. It's the conversation opener. It's your chance for a monologue. When it's over, what you really want that audience to say to you, the attendees in that audience, is, tell me more. And tell me more to an investor is very different than tell me more to a reporter. Tell me more to either of them is very different than the unemployed guy in row 7 who happens to have a PhD in computer science who comes up to you and wonders whether you'd be a good guy to work for. And so that's a few. You want a few more?
Right.
Yeah.
Shel,
you want more?
You there? I'm sorry. I thought I lost you there for a second. No, please, go ahead.
Did the audience lose me? Because that was the best I've been all day.
No. We're still here. I thought you got disconnected for a second, but we're fine.
Yeah. Another really important thing is it is better to be humble but proud than to think that your job is to cheerlead. The worst thing you can do to an audience when you're a startup is say anything that makes them question your credibility. It's the thread that can unravel everything you've done, everything you've worked up to that moment. You just exaggerate a little bit, and it can ruin it for you. On the other hand, if you don't know an answer or you're not quite right about something or something needs adjusting, hey, you're a startup. Everybody will forgive you. You're just a little guy. I love Joe Fernandez, who I've interviewed a couple of times. He's the CEO of Clout, and Clout is a very controversial company. A lot of people don't believe that what they're measuring is influence, which is what they say they're measuring. And Joe, for 2 years, whenever he gets really assaulted with it, says, hey, maybe you're right. Maybe it isn't influence, but we're measuring something. And give us a chance to figure it out. We're just little guys. Well, the little guys just took in a $38 million round.
Wow.
The customers involved Disney and Ford Motors, but they're still getting away with being little guys. And that is a huge advantage to being a startup.
Sure, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, no, Shel, it's just been, unless you had something else to add, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's okay.
Well, Shel, it's been really great. I guess just the final question I have is how can listeners get in contact with you and buy the book?
If you go to Amazon.com and you type in Stellar Presentations, you'll land right where you should, and there are buttons over to the right which will gladly take your money on my behalf. As far as me, there's a lot of ways of doing it. If you're in Twitter or almost any social media mechanism, I'm Shel Israel, one word, SHELISRAEL. If you're quaint and retro, I'm Shel Israel, spelled the same way, the number 1 at gmail.com.
All right, fantastic. Well, listen, Shel, it's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on, and I wish you the best success with this new book. We're still kind of making way for the startup publisher out there, the startup author out there. So I really look forward to seeing how well you do with it.
Well, thanks. I really look forward to see how well I do with it as well.
Well, good luck, and you're welcome back anytime to tell us how you're doing.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thanks a lot. You too. Take care. All right, everybody. That was Shel Israel. Remember to pick up his book, Stellar Presentations, An Entrepreneur's Guide to Giving Great Talks. As he said, he can do so on Amazon. Just log on to Amazon, type in Stellar Presentations, and it should take you right to it. You can also check out Shel on his blog. It's called globalneighborhoods.net, and that is neighborhoods British style, just so you know, with the U between the O and R. So NEIGHBOURHOODS.net. You can also follow him on Twitter, as he said, at Shel Israel. Also, please remember to pick up your copy of Entrepreneur Intervention for your Kindle or iPad for just 99 cents. And I appreciate you guys joining us tonight. This is David Domzalski, founder of the Financial Bin and host of Financial Bin Radio, signing off. Till next time, good night.